La Vuelta. Great day yesterday. Kind of benign, you might have thought, for much of the run, and then all of a sudden all hell broke loose. We had a crash towards the end of the day. And indeed, the drama then ensued, leading to a sprint which Buani took. Viviani lost his lead-out train. So what about today? Pozo Alcón is where we are heading to, and indeed the heat, as always, seems to be up yet again. This is your profile, begs a breakaway. In fact, as we climb out of the back door, we've got one. 7 riders, brave riders, you might say, in temperatures over 30 Celsius yet again. As always, the heat plays a part, but likewise, the riders will. Not sure which sprinters will be up there, but let's speak to UAE Sports Director, shall we? United Arab Emirates, of course, have Dan Martin. Will it be for him? Or someone like Rabatzi? He's in the break, by the way.
C'est une étape de baroudeur.
Well, it's a stage that fits the fighters, the baroudeurs. It's going to be a fast start because we're going to have a tailwind at the start. It'll be very complicated. It might look so on paper, but the final circuit, before crossing the finish line, you go straight to the south with a side wind, three-quarter front, and then we go uphill towards the northeast to get a wide road for a fast descent a little later. Then another right turn, tiny road to face the last difficulty on top of the summit. There's a short descent before a long, slightly uphill before the finish line. And it's going to be an extremely interesting show to watch, he says. A lot of difficulties out there. Could be spectacular. Let's see, shall we? As far as Team Sky are concerned, they lost the red jersey 2 days ago, of course, and it was apparently no big deal. But today, a good opportunity to chase it back. What does Nico Portal think?
For us, we know anyway. It's going to be like a GC battle. Evan is the breakaway, let's say, for the finish for the state victory. How he's designed the finish is tricky, and for sure all the GC content want to be in the front, and they're going to be fast. So for us, it's all about make sure we got Kiato and David on a good position, and if we can, with numbers at the end, because you have this long stretch, like about 5K or 4K and a half, could be headwinds. So it's like this is obviously better, but we want to be in numbers here.
There we are, I want to be in numbers. It is a numbers game after all. Battle for GC riders, strong sprinters like Sagan, could they be a factor? And what about Alejandro Valverde? If you look at the finish today, which has a nasty ramp at the end, more than that, should be him. No, tough stage. Yeah, it might fit me, but we're not going to be taking any risks, he said. I'll try and go through the day as well as possible. Try and be careful. The roads are quite narrow, and the finish is going to be complicated. And there's going to be a lot of tension out there. So the watchword is to be careful. Peter Sagan's been taking care of himself over the last couple of days. Will he finally impose himself, or is the heat just too much for a man who feels like he's had something of a bug? We'll wait and see. Oh, welcome to La Vuelta, indeed. And welcome to your good selves as well. You join us with around 97.4 kilometres of the day remaining. I can tell you we've got a breakaway, and a proper one it is as well. By that, I mean a strong group of very talented riders. Goujiar, number 17, nearest to us with the brown shorts, very accomplished, had a good run in the Big Bank Tour, by the way, podiumed on a couple of the days. Rolling terrain suits him down to the ground. This is the chase as it's being stood up at the moment, as we hook back briefly. Antoine Duchesne, the Canadian national champion, leading Groupama Francis Dejeun, and this presumably is for the likes of Thibaut Pinot today, who has lost time, and I think they want to impose themselves on everybody else. Can he gain it on this day? Not sure it would have been a shoe-in for him, but they've missed the break, Groupama Francis Dejeun. Maybe a whiff of punishment about it. Bora Hansgrohe are here. Jay McCarthy or Peter Sagan, they've got double options today, but let's dwell on this break then while we're looking at it. Michael Woods, number 118, with the pink shoulders, just rolling off the nose here. A spectacular rider who is the modern-day Poulidor. He's just runner-up so many times. He needs to take that extra step. Run-up 5 times, in fact, in major races in his career. Liège-Bastogne-Liège this year, Utah a couple of years ago, Milan, Torino, 2 years ago. Last year, the GP Miguel Indurain, he needs to win one. Well, he's got a good chance here today because he's a strong rider, and this sort of terrain kind of suits him. Rolling and punchy, he's got all of that, and he does roll with the punches. Floris Titia of Lotto Jumbo. I'm sorry we're not dwelling on the break, but I'll go through it anyway. Also, Jumbo in the yellow and black. Floris Titia, 26 years of age. Came close in the Strada Bianchi. Very, very strong there, you might remember. And was 5th on stage 5 here. The day that Simon Clark took it for EF Education First. Michael Woods in the break today. They can't help themselves. They've been in the break just about every day. I'm just wondering what will break for them, and maybe it's going to be Rigoberto Urán for the title. He's looking a very, very strong outsider at the moment, so let's see how they continue to amass stages, shall we, if it's possible, with Mr. Woods. Nicola Conchi is up here as well for Trek Segafredo. I'd have thought Fabio Fellini was probably their best bet if it does come back together, but Conchi is up there. 12th in Utah, 18th in California, so a couple of top 20s in the North Americas to his name. Bit of an engine room for Trek Segafredo in their familiar red. Edward Ravazzi of UAE Team Emirates is up here. Now, if ever there was a day that suited Dan Martin, it's today. It also might suit him if he gets the stage win, then he can go home and be there for the birth of twins. Yeah. Any moment, apparently. And so Dan Martin is playing a kind of that expectant dad game at the moment. Do I go? Could it be another week? Will it be tomorrow? I've no idea. I'm speaking as if I was Dan there. I've been through it myself. Not twins, you understand, but anyway. Dan Martin, then, will he be the man today? If he wins, he'll go home. Tell you that much right now. Edward Ravazzi is in the break for him. Looking at the red jersey, it's on the back of Rudy Mollard, stays there despite a 20-second penalty for taking a late bottle the day he actually took that jersey from the back of Mikhail Kwiatkowski, who remains now at 41 seconds down in second place. Manny Buchmann for Bora Hansgrohe, also that great foil for them. They're running extraordinarily well for the German GC man, which is probably part of the reason why they're up front. It's not just for Sagan or Jay McCarthy, it could well be for Manny Buchmann as well. Simon Yates is also extremely well placed at 51 seconds. Not really long enough for him today, I don't think, to impose himself, but he is punchy, you never know. Back to the break. Alex Aranburu of Caja Rural is here, and indeed Oscar Rodriguez as well, a young 23-year-old for the Euskadi Basque Country team. And for the first day since I can remember, we don't have Luis Angel Mate from Cofidis, or indeed anyone from Cofidis. Is the champagne in celebration of Buani, Sean? Just filtering through just a little bit. They got a stage win. They must be happy, and they've also got King of the Mountains jersey.
Well, Cofidis must be happy because Luis Angel Mate, he's been in the breaks, you know, so many times in this race, and he has got the mountain classification jersey. So already they were having a good race, but Bohani topped it up yesterday with that excellent sprint victory at the end of the stage. So they're, you know, they're in a good position, Cofidis, at the moment. And we often talk about Cofidis, they underperform. Well, in this Vuelta, I think, you know, they've done the business already, and from here on, everything else they get will be a bonus. And not surprising that Mate maybe is not in the breakaway. He has to be tiring, and you know, being in the breakaway for so many days in the earlier part every day, you know, it is going to tell after a point. And I think you know, we did see that, I think, in the latter days when he was in the breakaway. In the final, he was starting to tire a lot, but he's done the job, and you know, he started on home side as well. He was in his home region, so that was the reason. He had a lot of supporters out on the road, so he wanted to be in the breakaway, and he did it very well. And but still leading the mount classification jersey by a big margin. And you know, he'll wait, and I think take a couple of easier days now, recover when we go into the days where there are more mountain classification points to pick up. He'll just try for the breakaways once again.
It's interesting. Team Sky just saying that today might be about control, but it could be a race within a race if this break gets away. For the time being, they're not being allowed much leash. Two minutes and 28 is not a huge gap, Sean, despite the quality of this breakaway. Have they a chance of making it, especially as we had two back-to-back days, stages 4 and 5, where the break actually did bring it home?
Well, you'll wonder what the team of Group AM FDJ are doing here, because they're riding so strong on the front, and they're not allowing this breakaway to get any sort of nice advantage, and we did see, I think, the maximum was about 340 or 350, I think, at one point, and it's come down a lot from that. And still with 92 kilometres to go. Just a moment ago, we went back to the front of the peloton. We see Antoine Duchesne, the Canadian champion. They are pushing at a real strong pace. Really, you don't have to do that at this moment. You just, continue on making a pace, leave that breakaway, maybe get to 7 or 8 minutes, because, Michael Woods is the best one at 8:25, so you could afford to do that. And if the breakaway, is away in the end, there will be always other teams who will try and work and pull it back in the final, because there's a lot of teams, I think, have interest. We did hear some of the interviews pre-race there. They were talking about it could be a stage for Valverde. We see Bora Hansgrohe as well are very active. They have been in there with Groupama FDJ pulling it along, and we can see there it's Marcus Burkhardt who has been on the front a lot and pushing the pace along. They want to get the break back. I want to hold it at a manageable gap, but for the race leader, they should be, a bit more relaxed and not ride as hard, and just play the game, make the other teams commit a bit as we get further into this stage. As we can see here, it's still going at a very fast rate. Looking at the peloton, it's moving along at a real strong pace at the moment, and the advantage there, 2:23 to the breakaway. It is a difficult when you're out front like that and you see over 90 kilometres to go. You start thinking, oh, this maybe is not the day, and then you start to lose heart up in the breakaway. Nobody really commits anywhere they should be doing, and that means the advantage is going to come down. And it'll be interesting to see now. We've seen it already in this race, and as we see in big tours, sometimes when they get too close, they knock it back from the peloton. Will that be the case here?
I am foxed as to what Francis Tigieux are up to. Maybe they're looking jealously at what, despite the fact they've got the red jersey, at what Cofidis are doing. Not sure. Thibaut Pinot suffered yesterday. In fact, he came home, what, 1 minute and 44 down, which was a nightmare. Louis Meintjes was in that same group. Louis' luck just not holding at the moment. There were other big names, Sean, that took a big hit yesterday after the accident, which came, I guess, was accentuated by the fact that the pace was already well and truly up. It wasn't just a race for safety. There was a proper drive, and everyone else out front who avoided the crash had every right to push on, but unfortunately Thibaut Pinot was one of those that suffered, and his team appeared to be making him suffer again.
Yes, well, I think we were made aware of that by Fletcher. He said there was wind out there and it was going to be dangerous in the final when we get close to the coastline, and we did see that immediately when we came to that point where it was about 25 kilometres to go to the finish. The peloton started to speed up, 8 or 10 kilometres certainly before that, and then the crash occurred about that 6 kilometres from the finish, and that was a real disaster for some. And general classification, there was a lot of guys who were very much up there in the fight, lost time yesterday. And Kelderman, he was at Wilco Kelderman from Sunweb, he was at 106 and he slips down to 250. Pinot, of course, he was a little bit further down, 124, he goes down to 308. That's a big hit there, and on a stage where it looked like nothing going to happen because it was so slow yesterday. Everything was calm, and then suddenly at that 30 kilometres to go, it started up the pace, and the crash had caused mayhem. And we see there was groups everywhere on the road because of the wind conditions as well. It did change a bit. It was from the side, and yeah, valuable time lost by a lot of the general classification men.
Let's have a look at the social media surrounding the race. It's not just about legs, it's about thumbs as well, quite clearly. Vuelta story every single day. We'll be catching up on what the riders are saying on social media. Groupama Francis Tigieux about Rudy Mollard's red jersey. No, I did not sleep in the red jersey last night. He says probably too hot. It has been. Luis Angel Mate respecting the environment, tucking his foils away. Julian Duval about the crash caused by a helicopter. This is after the finish line, by the way. The helicopter passed over very low and blew some plastic barriers which were supposed to be restraining journalists. and unfortunately caused some tumbles. Cofidis, about celebration, and indeed, yes, saying that, they were determined to have a lot. Well, indeed they did. Good for them. That was, in fact, Nasser Bouhami about his victory. This is that helicopter incident that I was telling you about. The dust is up, and there is the rotors. Basically just passed by too close, and I'm afraid just blew it out. This is your Cofidis team celebration, apologies. Allowing themselves a glass of finest carver. Or maybe it's just fizzy water. Take your choice. And a team that's been known to have a few punch-ups around the dinner table and looks quite benign. Can't see Bouhami though, but he must be there. I think that was him centre stage with the beard on. So there you are. If you'd like to join the conversation, by the way, please feel free to do so. It's at Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, or at Sean Kelly CC, SeanKellycc. 2 minutes and 26. It's not a massive gap, and the team that are trying to keep it at bay seem to be Groupama Francis de Jure, and we're still foxed as to why this is. Maybe they've got a killer hand to play at the end, and maybe even Rudy Mollard in the red jersey. Just seeing disappearing on the right, off the right-hand side of your screen. That particular jersey in red out front, by the way, is number 53. And he happens to be the Canadian champion, so he is indeed from Groupama Francis de Jure. One man embedded, however, is Marcus Burgert from Bora Hansgrohe. They've got several options, including Manny Bookman, of course, who'd love to reach out today. I don't think he'd have the beating of either his teammate, Peter Sagan, or indeed Kwiatkowski, who is not averse to going quickly up a ramp. There is Kwiatkowski in the green jersey, surrounded by his Sky teammates. He's had to swap colour, Sean. There's no real burden to that, though, because Kwiatkowski remains amongst the favourites for this race, and it's only 41 seconds down.
Well, he's very much in the race, and I think he's in a perfect position, just getting the jersey offloaded to another team who are going to control, and that is, of course, Groupama FDJ, and we see the way they're doing it. You know, they are certainly, not going to allow any breaks to get away, it seems like, and that is the surprising part again today, as it was yesterday. But Mikkel Kwiatkowski in a real good position, staying safe yesterday. We could see with the team Sky, they were looking after him well, and keeping very much to the front, and they were the ones. When the race started to speed up yesterday, we could see Sky 4, 5, 6 riders together there in the front, and took Kwiatkowski to the very end in a real good position, and yeah, very solid at the moment in the general classification. That's perfect position to be at this point in the race, and it's going to be an interesting one. What can Kwiatkowski do? Can he win this race? What a season it would be if Kwiatkowski can win it for Sky here. It would mean all 3-week tours for Sky this year.
Indeed. Can you imagine that? Well, the Yates brothers are out to stop them, of course. It will be the favoured son, Simon, who finished well yesterday, avoided all the trouble. And these are some of the sinuous roads they've been calling out today. Welcome back. There, the great open plain. And in fact, they say the rain falls mainly here, but quite frankly, it's extremely dry. Sean, they're taking their feed, and indeed, rather than have it being serviced by a car, they've decided to just take it handily from the feed zone itself. That suggests to me that the gap is not an exponentially large one. In fact, it's being pared back down towards the 2-minute marker. Goodness me, there's the that's the zone where you can throw away your wrappers. At least I'm hoping it is. Because there's an awful lot dropped there. They see the sign, Sean, and they basically drop it for the tidy up squad, and that's a good discipline.
Yes, when I see the wrappers blowing in the wind there, I was wondering, was it the breakaway? Because I was saying it's an awful lot of wrappers from 7 riders if they're eating that many energy bars and gels, but no, it's from the peloton, and it's in the zone where they come through. We can see the riders, they just pull them out of the side of their jersey, out of their pockets, under a saddle we're seeing a lot now as well in this Vuelta, so that's becoming more popular, and yeah, it's working well, because you could see there was a lot of used wrappers from the energy bars and energy gels there blowing in the wind from the peloton.
Indeed. 2 minutes and 29, and it's en plein. They've locked out the front, Sean. They're coming into the feed zone, and nobody wants to race through this. They all want their feed, quite frankly, and no surprise there. They've done a lot of work in the heat this morning. 32 Celsius again.
Yes, well, FDJ have been really pushing on, as we talked about in the early part of our program here. You know, they were keeping the pace very high and not allowing the break, you know, to get away, to get the big advantage. The maximum it was around the 340, 350 advantage, and now we can see 2 minutes 30. So everything under control, and it's not surprising they're knocking it back here to go through the feed station, just to allow everybody to get their musette, and no problems that you know, riders having difficulty trying to grab a musette when it gets dangerous. And sometimes, yeah, riders missing it, and then riders have to take maybe 2 or 3 musettes, all of that. So at this pace, everybody should be able to get their feed back with comfort.
I keep notes, I call it the codec, on both the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France. And each Grand Tour, I issue a limited run of 250 of them as tea towels. And indeed, they're rather lovely. And the equally lovely Alison Ali Gala, sorts it all out, and all the money, every single penny, goes to Quebeca, the charity for bicycles in Africa. So while these guys are having a feed, let me just tell you about it. Last year, Ali and I managed to help 66 kids. So 66 kids got themselves a bicycle, and indeed they are all, of course, extraordinarily underprivileged. It means that they can do their chores, and instead of having to walk sometimes 15 kilometers or even more to school, they use their bike, so it helps their life really exponentially. Brilliant. It's a great charity. It's Quebeca, and it's supported by Team Dimension Data. You see the sort of waving hand upon their back. Anyway, this year's order book is open for tea towels. They'll be sold out today, I just warn you. And if you want one to help charity, and indeed kids in Africa get onto bikes and indeed improve their lives, then you have to go and follow on Twitter Mountain Sparrow. It's easy. It's an easy to spell, at Mountain Sparrow, and there you will find the email address where you can order one. That's it. You can't order from Mountain Sparrow, but you will find there the email address where you can order a tea towel, and you'll have a great memento of the Vuelta, and in so doing, you will also, £12.50 by the way, which includes postage, although not that far overseas. But nonetheless, if you go to Mountain Sparrow, you'll find all the details, and indeed you'll be helping kids in Africa get on their bikes and indeed transform their lives by education or the work that they do. I'm proud to be associated with it. It's a great charity, and indeed Dimension Data equally so. In fact, it was wonderful when Benjamin King won. That was his first thought. He said, we work here for the Quebeca charity, and what we do is far more than just riding our bike in races. It translates to helping many, many lives, and you can be part of that. Anyway, 82.4 kilometres to go. I'm glad it was a quiet section. I won't be mentioning it again, by the way, so if any of you write and say, what did he say? It's over. They will sell out. People say, why don't you print more? I said, well, I wouldn't be doing anything else, both me and Ali. Anyway, I think we've got Trent in for a chat.
Today, so close. Is today too hard for guys like you?
I don't know, because actually we already overwhelmed the stage of the other day, and today looks like the same. So not a meter flat, always up and down, left and right. We're gonna see if someone wanna keep the race together and try it on the last climb, but I think it's another day for the breakaway.
So for you guys, when you have the GC contenders in the team, you let it work out, and then later on in the race you make your decisions?
Yeah, we have to see how the race is going to be in the start, and actually who's going to go in the breakaway, because the other day I was there, but To be honest, was not a good move. That's why I sit up like 50 or 60 to go. Today can be the same, can be different. Who knows? We're gonna see. Because for sure it's a stage for Valverde, for Sagan, for Kwiatkowski, but to use the team to control the whole day today, it's gonna be hard.
Good luck. Thank you, Matteo.
Thank you.
Is it fair that he's got such an aero chin, Sean, as a sprinter? Don't answer that. The European champion. Has he got a chance today, Sean? It's not exactly ideal terrain, but he has got occasionally on a ramp. He's a tough guy, but the ramp that we're dealing with at the end of today is horrendous.
Yes, well, Trentin, he should be asked the question. Yesterday he was giving out about Bohani in the final number of meters, and you know, Bohani did move a little bit, but there was nothing there. I think Trentin, he was just disappointed that he wasn't going to get the victory, and that's what it's all about, getting the victory. Of course, yeah, get on the podium. The top three is important, but the victory is what all those guys, you know, want here. And for a rider like Trentin, who, you know, won so many stages last year, has won, you know, stages in so many races and other big races as well, it's always disappointing. You feel there with 100 meters to go, yeah, I can't get this one, maybe it's, and then you feel the riders coming over you, somebody move a little bit on you, and anything to give out, you know, you will do that. And Trentin was giving out yesterday, and I think what the language he was calling out as well wasn't very nice. We could see it there, we could read it, but yeah, is it for him today? I don't know if he's good enough at the moment. That is the problem. Last year, I certainly would say he's going to be very much in the shake today for the stage victory, but this year he's not on the level he was last year. And is he getting better? That's a question we'll have to wait and see later this afternoon.
Yeah, we will. I like Trentin, but as you say, Sean, he feasted himself on stages last time by. Was it 5? I'll double check in a moment, but I imagine that, as you quite rightly said, if it's not going to happen, you know it's not going to happen, even if it's 10, 15 metres from the line. And he sat up and he faded so quickly. He went from a podium place to his final finishing position. Where did he actually come in? 5th. So he lost 2 places just by sitting up in the last, what, 8 metres or so? Such was the closing pace of the likes of Viviani and Consoni, who went by him. Yesterday I called him out and said, why on earth didn't he push on, at least get the day's podium? But quite frankly, he's fed at the top table and he doesn't like crumbs.
No, certainly you don't like the crumbs. And yeah, it's that is bike racing, you know. You feel that everything is right and you get yourself into a good position. He was in a good position yesterday, but there was other men faster than him in that final run to the line, the final 80, 100 metres, and you know, he just not going fast enough for the moment.
Back in a moment. Welcome back. Wide open plains, absolutely beautiful, and you can see why it's given over to agriculture, albeit very, very chalky and dry loam, but olives seem to love it. Who's going to thrive today, then, in this kind of terrain? Anybody's guess. There it is. A couple of Category 3 tests still to come. We're on a downhill run right now. You can't see the altitude from this. This is our route map, but nonetheless, the gap's hovering around about the 3-minute mark. It's just drifted out to 3 minutes and 12 because everyone has fed. But we're going to go down off a little crest into a valley and then kick up to the Alto Calado de Laude. And when we get to the top, that's where the catch zone is going to be. I'm not sure about this break, Sean, whether it's going to be allowed to go. It seems that teams are still happy to impose themselves on a day like this, despite the fact that stage 9 is looming, and you'd think they'd be preserving their energies. Well, I think the teams that are riding, they're maybe not too concerned about stage 9, because today is a day where Group AM FDJ, they are going to control, but the way they are controlling, I suppose you have to ask the question, why are they riding so fast at times? And we can see again, you know, the Canadian champion here on the front, he's really pushing on when he does go to the front, Duché, and he's, you know, up on the pace all the time. And you can see back in the peloton there, it's a day where it's blowing a little bit of a wind. It looks like it's times there they had a side wind, and it looked like the peloton was, you know, breaking up a little bit for the moment, you know, all together. And yeah, that is going to make it difficult for the breakaway. 3:12 at the moment and still 75 plus kilometers to go. So, you know, they would love out in the breakaway to have 7 or 8 minutes at this point, and just Group AM FDJ
setting a pace on the front and just controlling things, and then they could go into the final maybe 40-50 kilometres with that 6 or 7, 8 minutes advantage. That would look like a day where the breakaway might survive, but for the moment it doesn't look like it's a good one, because I think there's more teams will take up the pace setting as we get into that final 50 kilometres, because they know it's doable now. It's easy to take back the breakaway, so there will a lot more teams get interested. But yeah, Bora Hansgrohe are very interested, because they have your Burkhardt riding there most of the time with the FDJ riders, so they are interested in this stage victory today, and there will be other teams later into this stage.
I think so. I think this could get very, very feisty towards the end. We've got Miguel Angel Lopez. We're going to be having a look at him in a few moments' time. We've got time today to play in a few feature pieces, which I hope you're going to enjoy. Miguel Angel Lopez starting off as one of the favourites, and indeed he and Astana kind of hovering where they need to at the moment. Lopez himself is in 12th place, minute 27 down, but crucially he's about 40 seconds down on Mikhail Kwiatkowski. I know that's not exact, but my maths isn't up to it, but you knock yourselves out. Just coming off this this crest right now, it'll be a descent, decent road. There is some, or there are some pretty gnarly roads that we're going to be dealing with, as Juan Antonio Fletcher would describe them, goaty. Let's wait and see how they reveal themselves to us. Meanwhile, seems situation held. Not many mountain points up for grabs on the next climb, but we'll see how these guys cope, and we'll talk you through the climbs when we get to them, because they are a bit tetchy, should we put it that way? Very, very steep, but also very short. So they don't have a great deal of mountain points offered up for them, but they can prove to be a bit of a leg breaker and possibly a mind breaker late on, and that's where we'll that remains of main concern. 5 kilometres at 6.1% is the Collado de Luna where we are coming up to right now. So, you know, it's no small beans. Let's see how they take it, shall we? Meanwhile, let's drop in on Miguel Angel Lopez, shall we? He's main hope possibly for Colombia here. All respect, of course, to Oran and indeed Quintana. But Lopez apparently is the secret missile. Let's see. Here he comes. He's one of the best, most promising riders of his generation. He's from Colombia, just 24 years of age. Tour de l'Avenir winner in 2014. Has also won 2 stages of the Vuelta last year, finished 3rd in the Giro this year. It's Miguel Angel Lopez, for goodness sake. I started riding a bit late. Started when I was just 17 years of age, but could have been earlier. Before my first race in the city where I lived, thieves came and tried to steal my bicycle, and I wouldn't let them. In the confusion, I was stabbed twice with a knife. 15 days later, I competed in the Vuelta Porvenir, which is the most important cycling race in Colombia for young riders. In one of the mountain stages, I was in the breakaway, and one of the commentators started to call me Superman, because I just would not let my bike get stolen, and because of my recovery on such a short time, I was competing again. Well, I won the first race I participated in, and then a week after I was in a village. I also won that competition. So then I thought, I seem to be made for cycling, and so I started training properly. And while going to school, I was training, doing less than 10 kilometres a day. I was beating guys training harder than me. So I thought that concentrating on that would help, maybe deliver something good. I had some tough days, but thanks to Rafael Acevedo, former pro cyclist, and Lucio Herrada's friend, I went through it, and I made the process until being part of the Astana team, and that's where I am now, he says. So just keep doing more and more kilometres for my legs. and we'll see where it takes me. That was the idea, just to put something extra into my training and see how good I could be. Well, this year has been a good year in the Giro. I achieved a podium that I really worked for, and my dream is that one day I'll win a Grand Tour, and we saw that in the Giro we took a big step forward, achieving that with 2 podium finishes. And I think that with my team, Astana, I have a lot of improvement space, which of course I'll push into. But I have plenty of racing ahead of me as well. I'm still a young guy. Having already achieved a podium motivates me, and it just simply pushes me on. I just want to work as hard as I can, and I'm here to work harder than ever, he says. Good man. Could be a very good man. Let's wait and see. Well, we've got the young. Sometimes this race is a crossroads, incidentally, for young riders, and can prove, coming so late in the season, to be a bit of a disincentive for young riders to come along. However, we've got plenty, and it's a real shame they don't have their own jersey. The white jersey here is the combined jersey. Sean, I don't agree with that. I know the numbers of young riders have been traditionally lower for La Vuelta because it comes late in the season. They don't think that the young legs can cope with it, but frankly I think they should be acknowledged, even with the small group we've had. What do we have, 14, 15 young riders here? I'll count them up in a moment. They deserve a jersey, not just a number.
Yes, well, I don't think it really matters, you know, how many young riders we have here. Let's say competing with the general classification, and that means in the top of the general classification, but they still would be nice to have a young jersey classification jersey each day. But is it because they haven't got maybe a sponsor to do that? And that's something I think in the Vuelta they might have difficulty of getting a sponsor for the jersey, so it will be interesting to see what the reason is. But it would be nice to have the jersey, just to give recognition. And if it's not somebody who's in the top 10 or top 15 of the overall standings, it would still be nice for that guy just to get that jersey and something to fight for. But yeah, it is a disappointing one.
It is, and I've shocked myself here. I'm shamed myself, really. 41 young riders. That's enough for a young riders competition, more than. Why haven't they got a jersey? I don't know. It's not been traditional here at the Vuelta, but traditions sometimes need to be changed. When you've got a combined jersey, which is owned usually by the points jersey winner or the GC leader, doesn't that devalue it a bit? Oh, we're getting contentious today. Welcome back. We've just been mugged by the road book again, or potentially. We're wise to it. The road book is, how can I put this? It has a freestyle, characteristic about it, in as far as it's not entirely reflective of what we have to deal with. We've got used to that, and we kind of watch ourselves by looking at the road book and thinking, that doesn't look too difficult, let's check it out. And the final climb today has 2 ramps of around 7.5, nearly 8% within it. And indeed, if you look at the road book proper, it's not there. It's as if somebody has just drawn a ruler line, very benign, around about 2.5%. These roads, they widen and they narrow, and if you're not careful, somebody like Fabio Follini, who, if he was at the pointy end at the end of today, could well be in a winning position, but not if he keeps getting knocked, Sean. It's luckily for him, he got away with that, but even a slow-paced fall can be very, very nasty if you're talking scaphoid and the like.
Yes, well, you can fall heavily when you're going slow like that, and we could see that he just went off the road a bit. But yesterday was the one where we did see that crash in the final 25 kilometres. Feline was one of the ones who went down. Victor Carpenats was the other one, and Carpenats, he got a number of stitches in his arm. They're saying he got 10 stitches, so he hit the road very heavy. Feline also, he had some facial wounds, but I don't think it was too bad. We did see immediately when the doctor's car arrived with him, he went to the mirror of the car and he had a look at his, he was looking at his face to see what the damages were. So he was concerned immediately. He was able to get up and do that, so it wasn't a bad one, but still he knew he had, you know, hit his face on something when he went down. He was checking it very urgently.
And luckily for him, he remained handsome. That's what his worry was. Do I still have a nose here? But anyway, he got away with it. The climb goes on. In fact, we're a kilometre away from the peak of it, and as you can see, it crests just a little bit. But they've stretched their legs, especially in 30-odd Celsius. See from the flags and indeed the top of the trees here and the grass at the roadside that the wind is not at its most severe. We're expecting it to blow up a little bit later on, and in fact, it's an easterly we're expecting. So yeah, the wind does come late. You get something called vectoring, where the land heats up. When it does, it heats the air above it. That goes up, it rises. And when you're close to the coast, which we are still, it draws in the cooler air, and suddenly you get afternoon winds. And yesterday, 14 knots, according to our windsurfing colleague Juan Antonio, translating to about 25, 26 kilometres per hour. Just rolling through this KOM, and Floris Tatia looked like he was most bothered. He went for it. Rodriguez also up there. Actually, I wasn't quite sure, because Rodriguez was screened from me, whether Rodriguez took it. But there is prize money up for grabs, and some of the minor teams usually get, if nobody's concerned about the points, Sean, it's usually polite to gift it to invitee teams who traditionally have very small budgets.
Yeah, sometimes they allow that, and you know, other times then for some reason they have this sprint between the riders out front. But it looked like that they just rolled over there once again, and often is the case. Whoever's on the front or just comes to the front at the right time, he gets the honours of taking it. It looked like maybe Michael Woods there from Team EF Education first, maybe rolled over first, but we were looking at it from a rear view, so it's difficult to see who exactly got it. But certainly there was no effort there, no opening pace, no sprint whatsoever for that GPM point. And we can see here back in the peloton, it's still Bora Hansgrohe who are contributing a lot with Group Arma FDJ. It's going to be an interesting one. The final, this could be a very nervous final once again. If they close down the breakaway earlier on, as we see yesterday, then it started to get real nervous yesterday, because the breakaway was pulled back. Secondly, there was the risk of winds, and today is another one where it is one of these difficult finals. The final 25 kilometers gets very difficult, but before that, it's technical. There's some narrow roads as well, so it could be a very rapid final from quite a bit out.
Just back to the car. This is Michael Albacini, who's just taking on bottles, and he's not thirsty. He's going to be handing those out. Well, he probably is, but he'll be handing those out to his colleagues. It does take an awful long time to actually bottle up. I'm not talking about Fortitude here. I'm talking about H2O. Francis Dejeux, Groupama Francis Dejeux, to call them by their proper name, have done so much work today. They went through the feed zone, did take some feed, and they want some more at the end of this climb. They've burnt themselves, Sean, today. I'm still not really quite sure why they've put in so much energy to the top of the day.
Yes, well, they are putting in, you know, a lot more than they need to. And that is a question of maybe they're just feeling so good they can't hold themselves back. But they're certainly, you know, really putting it up for the breakaway to get an advantage they would like at this moment. And still with 66 kilometers to go, just under 3 minutes.
So over the crest they go. We're on a plateau now, but it comes down. We have a descent of altitude. We will lose about 600 meters in the next 50k. So a lot of it's going to be flat, a lot of it's steps, but stepping down. So you'll see a descent, flat part, descent, flat part. In fact, six or seven steps along the way. Don't be too distracted by it when you suddenly see a descent. It's not the big one. The big descent that we're most concerned about, which will take us to the foot of the Category 3 climb, which is a gnarly one, the Alta de Cheal. Will come after about 160 kilometres of the day, so that ticker on your screen will say about 23, 24 Ks. So we're a long way from that, just for the time being. So a few steps along the way, which gives us a chance to have a look at some of the other interviews and chit-chats that we've had along the way today. Rudy Molnar is one of those, and he's a man who is blessed with a red jersey at the moment. It's a very, very happy place for both him and Francis Tijoux. And it's kind of almost came to him by accident, I think it's fair to say, within the breakaway that was allowed a lot of head. In fact, that day, it was a change of jersey. So suddenly we got to stage 5, Roquetas. Let's speak to Rudy Molnar, shall we? For the first time in his career, Frenchman Rudy Molnar is wearing a leader's jersey in a Grand Tour. A true reward, I think it's fair to say. Always in the shadow of the leaders. A real workman-like guy. Youngster as well. Professional since 2011, though. Starting with Cofidis. Rudy Molnar, well, he's still in his mid-20s, and after stage 5, taking the lead of La Vuelta. Well, when I pinned my numbers on the red jersey, I just thought to myself, wow, here I am. Today it belongs to me. It's the most beautiful jersey of my career. It's a unique moment that I've got, and a real honour. This jersey for me is also for the team Groupama Francis Tijoux, who helped me to have it. Well, 2018 really was the best pro year for Rudy Molnar. Last March he won a first race of his career, and indeed took on the Paris-Nice, the 6 Paris-Nice. Huge effort as well. Julien Pinot says he's someone that's very endearing. He never stresses. He always has a smile all over his face, always happy. He's inside the team, a proper functioning part of it. And most of all, he's continuing to progress. He's very strong. So his strength is that he smiles and helps everybody. Frank Pinot, he says he's just a perfect guy. He always works a lot for his leaders, notably Thibaut Pinot. Yesterday, meaning 2 days ago, of course, it was just the cherry on the cake for him, and now we're all for him. We're going to be working for him. He's a top guy, and it's an absolute pleasure to do it. He's a bit disturbed, actually, by the attention, because this morning he put on his jersey, and he put it on the wrong way round. So distracted is he by the attention and indeed the fact that Rudy Molnar is all over the French press. How nice is that? Well, it may be a surprise to see him in that jersey, but he owns it, Sean, by rights, and his team at the moment are owning everybody. They're doing a lot of work. We still don't know why, really. Yes, they are doing a lot of work, and still we can see that the peloton it is going along at a good pace, and that's a good thing to see, because we have had some days, notably yesterday was a very slow day because of the wind conditions. Today, you know, the direction we're going pretty much westerly in the earlier part, and then when we get to that 50 kilometers to go, it starts to turn around a bit, because we're at the finish area, and they go out and do this final 50.7 kilometers, and of course that will change, because when you do a lap there will be different wind directions, and that could be a danger one, depending on what way the wind is blowing later on the day. And if you get some open countryside, we could see, as we see yesterday, you know, the peloton did split because of the wind conditions changing in the very final. Another one of these walkways, which apparently were for water and power engineers of old. And this is the Passerella Golgante, as you can see. And yeah, they scare the pants off me, these things. They are supported by indented timber, and I always think, well, what happens when that fails? I guess you go for a swim, probably with a sore head. These guys, they must be wondering what on earth they let themselves in for, Sean. You see the group here, and you think to yourself, well, it's not that much of a threat, certainly to overall. Michael Woods is the best placed of them. He's out on the front at the moment with his pink shoulders of EF Education First. Powered by Dre, Canada. 8 minutes and 25 is his deficit to the leader, Flores de Tia, 10 minutes and 50. I thought they'd be away. I thought this was going to be a secondary battle for the GC men, but it's not happening. In fact, the gap is closing, and they've lost a minute in the last 6 or 7K.
Yes, well, you would expect this breakaway of 7 riders when they got out of the peloton, and they got out very early. After 5 kilometres, I think they were up the road, and I think they would have been looking about. The team directors would also be looking, and you look at Michael Woods, who was, 8.5 minutes almost down. You would expect this breakaway to be left to take a big advantage, but it hasn't been the case, and yeah, they're going to be disappointment by some of the riders and the teams that made the breakaway of the day. And yeah, it's Group AM FDJ are contributing, a lot, which you ask yourself, do they really need to do as much? They could allow the breakaway, but yeah, it's not going to say that some of the other teams will not take it up then if they do not, keep the breakaway at a manageable distance. Maybe Bora and some of the other ones would add a number of extra men here to the front. We've seen for most of the day, Bora has had Burkhardt up there, and he's continuing on to walk there on the front, and 2:17 at the moment. It's going to be a real difficult one, and disappointing for the men out there. And we'll talk about Michael Woods a lot. He's a rider. I think if he got to the end of this stage today with that kick up, and a bit more difficult than it looks on the route, on the road book, the finish, he would be the candidate to take a stage victory after having a lot of second places, notably in the Giro and Liège-Bastogne-Liège. To get a stage win in a big 3-week tour, it would be a great opportunity for him with this final. If it was a flat final, well, then it's always a bit more complicated, but with this uphill finish, it would be the perfect one. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen for the breakaway today.
No, it does rain here, as you can see. Mainly on the plain. It's quite verdant, and we have full reservoirs as well, which tells you that we get some storms. Now, they have been predicted to arrive, but we seem to be riding away from them constantly, and as a result it remains dry as a cracker. We might have exactly that today, a cracker by the end. It's a tough old intro to the end of the day. We're on this sort of series of steps, Sean, which will bring us down inexorably to the final climb, the Alto de Cheal. We do ride on beyond the categorized climb, but it's a nasty one, Sean, with some proper tests within it, and it could be a knockout blow for some of the fast men.
Yes, well, it is going to be a bit of a hectic final, and the final 20 kilometres are difficult. It starts to kick up roughly about the 20 kilometres out, and then yeah, it gets very difficult at times, quite a long way out. And then on the final step, the final number of kilometres as well, up to the line, it does ramp up seriously, and it's a one where there's a lot more riders going to be in here. The punchers like Valverde and the rest, they're going to be thinking, well, I can get something out of today's stage. Sagan is another one who can do this sort of finish, because he's that sprinter, but he's also real powerful on the uphill finishes. So it's going to be an interesting final. There's a lot more riders, I think, thinking they can do something. Some of the general classification men as well, they might be thinking about doing something. The ones who are a bit further down, maybe Dan Martin, as you said, Carlton, he's a long ways out in the general classification. So this could be an opportunity for him to have a go. And if he does go, 2 kilometres out, 1.5 kilometres out, he's not a danger man, so he might get a little bit more leeway than the guys who are really up in the general classification at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. Watch out for Dan Martin. His wife is expecting twins. He's not going to complete, I don't think, the whole race, so if he wins a stage today, he might have a ticket home. Welcome back. Looks like Mars from up here. Or is it Snickers? Other confectionery is available. We're going to be hearing from Alberto Contador in a short while. Meanwhile, Bora are badging themselves up for a bit of glory here, and I think Peter Sagan is clearly feeling better. We mentioned Dan Martin very briefly, and some of you tuning in saying, expectant father. Yes, we spoke about it at the top of the day. Dan Martin's wife is expecting twins. Apparently it's reasonably imminent. The thing with twins is they usually come early, often under doctor's advice. Sorry to get all maternity unit on you, but anyway, Dan Martin will be a nervous man. He would like to get a win under his belt and give himself the opportunity, should it be required, of leaving the race to go and be there at the birth of his twins when they come. I don't know any details of the twins, by the way, but anyway, it is twins. So he's probably carrying a bit of a burden, would like to get a win out of the way, and today is a perfect opportunity for him. We have a big climb. We're on a sort of a rolling step descent at the moment, with a few little gentle false flat rises, as you can see, where our peloton are. But once they go over the lip, down into the dip, which will introduce the final climb of the day, that will peak out with 12.7 kilometers to go. There's an intermediate sprint to be had, and then a sort of a draggy ramp up to the line. It's the sort of attack point that Dan Martin has in mind. Peter Sagan, I think, is also mindful of being at the pointy end when we get there, and so they need to be in a decent place before we start the descent down towards that last climb. So that means in about 30 k's time, these guys have got to be caught if you want to have some fun for the run-in, John.
Well, yes, they will have to be caught, but looking at the situation, which we've talked about a lot already in this day, just over 2 minutes with 53 kilometers to go, and we can see the way the peloton is being pulled along by Bora, Hansgrohe, and Burkhardt is the one who's contributing a lot with the Group AM FDJ riders. So looking more and more like it's going to be a run-in for the peloton here, and the stage victory is going to come from the peloton. Who that will be, that is that's the big question of the day, because there's a lot of men thinking they can do it here, and as you mentioned, Carlton, Dan Martin is the one who will try something here if he can get himself into a good position, but there's so many other riders, and Peter Sagan, of course, from Bora, he's going to be up here today. If he's feeling good, well, then he's a one who will be very much in there for a shout for stage honours. Valverde we talked about. Yes, Simon Yates also, let's not forget, we see him in the Giro. He won stages, which were something similar, short uphill finishes, and this is a one which he can perform quite well at. And yeah, there's a lot of other riders who you have to throw into the mix, and Rigoberto Urán, if he gets into a position, he could be another one who could do something here today. So we'll have to wait and see. Positioning is important, and to get into a good position at the right time, if you do that, and some of the riders we mentioned, if they can manage to do that, get into the top 5-10 riders running into the final, and that will be the big race to get into that final number of kilometers in a good position. And if the riders who are capable of doing something here today can manage that, well, then they're always in with a good chance of getting something out of the day.
It's so tough towards the end, and maybe high-paced as well. Don't be surprised to see Mikko Kwiatkowski up there, Valverde, of course, Rigoberto Urán, who Sean's just mentioned. Of the Izaguirres, the punchiest is probably Gorka. Jon, who is the best placed of them for Bahrain Merida with their red and gold helmets. I think it would be Gorka today. Dries de Venjens as well for Quick-Step Floors. Doesn't mind a ramp or two. We talk about positioning. Yesterday, Eli Viviani had a nightmare. On the final roundabout, it came as an unexpected 3/4 to some of them. We knew it would be. They almost doubled back on themselves, and it was so focused he lost his lead-out train, and once that had happened, he spent the next 600 meters trying to get back in. He did finish third, was the fastest man out there, but it shows you how important positioning can be. And it's going to be potentially even more important for the GC men, who could be duking out for victory today, because 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds at the line as well. It could be that there's some big inroads taken to what is a tightly packed group behind Rudy Mollard, who is the man who's gone into the red jersey. He's just having a drink there, you might see, part of the Francis de Jeux group. And there's Peter Sagan in the World Champions stripes across his breast. Can't see him holding on to that with the World Championship course in Innsbruck this year. It just looks too peaky, but stranger things have happened. Peter Sagan has certainly got his mojo back, and he's fighting for this one. Let's see how he goes. And let's hear from Bertie, Alberto Contador, Eurosport colleague now, as to what he thinks.
Bueno, si fuera... Bueno, intentaría...
If I was general manager, I would try and make the parcours very, very attractive. It means of the race, wide race, more explosive. But I like the race this year regarding how it stands out. You can't dedicate everything to the sprinters. You need to get the right balance. And I think this year's parkour is extremely well balanced, offering something up to everybody. It's not just about the sprinters, according to Bertie.
Tienes que intentar buscar ahí un poquito el equilibrio y yo creo que el recorrido está bastante conseguido. Bueno, a mí es que me iba bien.
So what would you take? What would you take out of the parkour?
Sí que había veces que no había
Well,
un día de
you don't want mountain stages every day. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you've got any a rest day out there. Steep slopes, wider climbs, descent afterwards. Every day it seems you had a different type of tough stage. I think, he says, 8 summit finishes instead of 11 would be the best thing. He's in a kindly mood, Sean, which is not a mood he used to display as a rider when he got his killer head on.
Yes, well, he does talk about you know, the climbs and the finishes, and he did mention at the earlier part of he was hearing it right there, the longer climbs and having finishes, which is mountaintop finishes, and of course that would suit Alberto Contador better because he was the real climber. The short climbs like we have today and some of the ones we're going to have further out in this race, they're always complicated because it's such a race to get onto the climb in a good position, and then you know you have maybe 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. So if you get knocked back a bit and you find yourself a bit further back, it's difficult to get back out into the front of affairs because it just goes so quickly, that 2-3 kilometers, and that's what the general classification men are always concerned about, you know, that there's so many people fighting, so many riders up there trying to keep their general classification men in a good position and get them onto that final ramp to the finish. It's always a complicated one. And yeah, the long finishes, of course, the real good climbers like Contador, they will prefer that, because if you do start a bit further off, you have a lot of time to get back into it and get up into the front of the race.
Just look at the crowds here, Sean. They love their cycling here, and what I love as well is you see them looking at the riders, not at the cameras. It's not about them, it's about those who are taking on this test, and it's a significant one.
Yes, well, we're coming through the area now where we're going to finish later on in the day, so it's not surprising that we're seeing a lot of people about, and you know, they're going to hang around for the finish later on this afternoon. And yes, it's a race where we see sometimes we get huge crowds at the finish, other days maybe not as many as we would like to, but in general, the Vuelta has improved a lot, because I think there's a lot more people turning out now on the roadside and certainly at the finishes.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily crowd friendly. So we cross the finish line here. Oh, well, abut it, let's put it that way. We'll take a loop right now, and when we come back, we'll approach the finish from a slightly different angle. Nonetheless, doesn't diminish the fact that they've been roared on back out into the countryside, and this is where we take on our loop, Sean, which includes our climb. 46.4 kilometers. It's still holding at the moment around about the 2-minute mark. In fact, just very gently extended by the break. I think we need to give them some credit, Sean, and go through them. We spoke of them at the top of the day. Alexis Gougiard for AG2 à la Mondiale, Michael Woods from EF Education First, Floris de Tier from Lotto Jumbo, Nicola Conca from Trek Segafredo. We have Edward Ravazzi from UAE Emirates. Aaron Buru is a decent climber from Caja Rural, the invitee team, and likewise Euskadi Basque with Rodriguez. This is a strong fighting force. I suggest of them, Michael Woods is probably the one we expect most of in the pink.
Yes, well, he would be the one we would expect to do something in the final if they were allowed to go in and contest the final for the stage victory. But yeah, you know, they're still walking away quite well, but they haven't got, you know, the advantage, and never were allowed the advantage. I think 340 was the most they were allowed, but we can see there, no, it's pushed out to 3 minutes, then they start riding on the front, notably AG2 à la Mondiale. When they come to the front, they seem to up the pace a lot, and then the advantage comes down by 30 or 40 seconds very quickly.
Indeed. Let's see if that happens today, shall we? We'll take a break. Welcome back. scorched, parched landscape today, and likewise the riders' tongues, I'm sure. They're keeping themselves nice and hydrated. They kind of got used to the task of it, I guess. Wearing the white jersey today, of the combined jersey, the second jersey owned by Kwiatkowski, is Alejandro Valverde. He's equal on position points to him at 18. Less is more in the combined competition, by the way. It's about positions. But nonetheless, Kwiatkowski is on 18 puntos, and Alexander Valverde likewise. So it goes on count back as to who has finished the better more often, I believe. And in that regard, Kwiatkowski's had 2 runners-up spots. Valverde did win one stage, but nonetheless, in some other races they would have counted Valverde's win as primary. There we are. Got it out there in the end. Almost said primus, which is a cooking stove. Well, the cooking today, again over 30 Celsius, Sean. It's relentless, the heat and the pace, it seems.
Yes, well, the heat is relentless since the start of this race, and it's going to continue for another bit. But we are moving, more west northerly from here on. Tomorrow again we go a bit further up, upwards and over to the west, the western part of Spain, very close to Portugal actually. And as we get further up, it's going to be warm for a number of more days until we get up north, and then of course we go to Andorra. That area should be a bit cooler when we get there, but that is a long way and a long road to get there. But yeah, it's one of these Vueltas which is very warm, but nothing new. When you start in this area of Spain, you can expect those conditions at this time of year, and it is causing problems for a lot of the riders. And we did see in the earlier days, it was more so in the first number of days until you get a bit climatized, but now the fatigue is starting to set in when you're getting into the end of the first week of racing. Some of the riders who do not support this, maybe the form wasn't that good coming into the race, fatigue is going to be a problem, and that's going to be all the way through for some of the men in the peloton.
It's down to 2 minutes, and I've seen EF while you've been out getting the tea. Thank you very much. I've seen EF Education First actually coming up to help with the drive while you were out of the commentary position, Sean. And we were just posing the question as to why would they be attacking Michael Woods. It's because they've got another battle plan. The pace is extremely high, and look at it starting to tumble. And this is because there's stage victory up for grabs apart from anything else. But it may well be that it's the GC men themselves, Sean. Valverde, Dan Martin. All right, I know Dan Martin's tumbled down the general classification. But Kwiatkowski, why not? Oran, certainly. Peter Sagan has done a lot of work to tee this up. He's allowed his team to help Groupama Francis de Dieu to be out there and busy. And look, the Austrian champion for Bora is on the front right now, and when Postelberger comes, he usually delivers Sagan. So we are teed up for a glorious run in. We're on a plateau at the moment. It still is a little bit rise. It will have its rises and falls before we get to that 26k marker, but that's coming, Sean, in what 14 kilometers time. And I reckon the catch may well be made within the downhill run or the climb itself, the Alto de Chial. Now, let's talk about that climb, shall we? Because it's a toughie. It's not designed to be pleasant, Sean, but it's a lot more of a kicker than people think. 4.2 kilometers in length.
Well, when you look at the route menu, you look at the final run in, and it does look to be difficult, but it's actually much more difficult than they leave you to believe from that. And we can see there, you know, the percentage kicks up a lot, and it is going to be a one that the riders are aware of that, because all the teams will have somebody who was, you know, came along the route earlier on today, came to the finish here, and that will be relayed back. But I think that's a bit further out. We can see at the moment in the peloton, they seem to be getting, you know, really concerned about what's coming up, and we are going to change direction a bit, and that is something, you know, it's always a concern then, because the wind direction could change late in the afternoon as well, which we're into at the moment. That's always a concerning point, and I think that is the first thing that we're seeing here. The peloton is starting to just go a bit faster all the time, and the advantage 130 at the moment for our breakaway. And then the final, of course, that will be a hectic run in. because they all want to be in a position to be able to have a go for the victory in the peloton, and it will be a fight to get into that final 2.53 kilometres.
Yeah, it will. Can't wait. Helicopters a go-go. They caused some problems yesterday with a rather low flyover, which drew in some plastic barriers that hadn't been filled with water. Nail your barriers down or link them together, for goodness sake, but it was to control the press. So the press control barriers drifted into the peloton, and they were carrying a lot of impetus over the line, Sean, and a few riders got tagged.
Yes, we did see riders got tagged there, and we see Julian Duval from AG2 All Mondial. He was the one who went in the attack when they came out of that final, the roundabout leading to the finish. There was a little bit of a moment where I think, yeah, the sprinters, they just were looking about, and he went in the attack. But just after the line, when the barriers were blown across, he came down. He got a number of stitches in his arm also. So, yeah, something you get through the day, and you avoid all the crashes, and then because the helicopter flying a bit low blew the barriers across the road into the riders.
You see this chicane we've just been through? They were about 10 wide coming into it. And look how the tube of toothpaste, it's like you've stood on one. It's strung out, as you can see. It's that kind of little technical approach that can happen at any time. You can't map out every single stage of a 3-week tour. Even the biggest teams are going to get something unexpected, Sean, and you can get caught out.
Oh, yes. Well, sure, when you have a stage of, as we have today, 185.7 kilometres, there's always going to be points where you can get caught out, and no matter how much the team work on it, the riders can get it wrong themselves. But when you're right in the front, as we can see here, the general classification teams, Lotto and Jumbo starting to appear here. When you're in that position in the top 15, 20 riders, then you're in a safer place, but there's no guarantee there'll not be crashes there. Yesterday, that crash with 25 kilometres roughly before the finish, it was pretty close to the front of the peloton. So yeah, bike racing, that's what it is. It's a risky game, and when everybody's fighting to be in the front, there's always going to be the risk there are going to be crashes at the very front of the race. Indeed.
Well, let's hope they stay safe today, because there are some nasty, sort of gnarly roads that are quite thin. And in fact, Fletcher has done, Juan Antonio has done a recon for us, which will highlight just how difficult some of the roads are. We're on a country road right now, as you can see, not high volume traffic road at all, but at least it's a decent surface with a gentle crown in the centre. Don't drift too far towards the edge of the road. That's where you can pick yourself up a nasty pinch puncture. The clouds still trying to form, and every day this happens. We see them, we worry about them, and then they go away. Let's see if we do get the tempest, which is apparently starting to build. It'd be dreadful if we have it on the stage 9, the run to Covetia. Sean, I'm hoping that it at least stays dry until the rest day.
Well, yes, it would be better to stay dry, because in this area, we haven't had a lot of rain, and when you haven't rained for quite a while, the roads, they get very slippery when you get the first rain, and the riders, they will not want that. And yeah, we've seen the forecast was today, a bit overcast, cloudy, but still, that warm condition still staying, the 34 plus degrees. So the little bit of overcast is a help, because if you have the sunshine there baking down, well, then that will be the real killer for the riders. So this more cloudy condition is certainly the better conditions for the riders out on the road.
36 kilometres only of the day remaining. It's been a fast pace today, Sean, and look at the pace that's still being instilled. We've been well over the 40k marker, and for that we're grateful, especially after what was a slow day yesterday. Might be a slowish one with the climb coming, only one climb, by the way, in 195 kilometres. That said, we will be climbing it towards the end. Oh, stop frightening the donkeys, Mr. Helicopter. He'll calm himself down, I hope. Welcome back, everybody. Just waiting for Juan Antonio to spool up his spectacular, well, crystal ball, I think it's fair to say. He's so far he's done 2 recons, one that have been very telling. They're all telling, of course. You learn a lot from Juan Antonio. Look at that. They're flying solo. They're kicking up some of the chaff off the fields here. Stop downing the olives. They need some altitude. These helicopters, you're going to see a white helicopter being filmed by a blue helicopter in a moment. I notice as well, where they're standing, the keystones are missing from the arched bridge here, the aqueduct. That's an ancient monument. Incidentally, they don't know how the Romans, without lasers, managed to get such a slow waterfall here. You want the water to be able to be drawn off, and as a result, they need it to travel at less than a metre per second, and that requires stellar engineering, and they don't know how they managed to do it without laser technology. Those keystones are going to keep falling. Be careful, everybody. Here's Juan Antonio.
Third category climbs are never really decisive in cycling. But nevertheless, we're in the Vuelta a Espana, which is a bit of a wild, wild west situation. And we are here at 17 kilometers to go to the finish line. And from this town of Celial, a 5 decisive kilometers climb will begin. So I better saddle up and ride. Right from the bottom, there's a sign, a warning one. It's about the corners and how dangerous it is. And I'm already shaking. Narrow roads, cliff on one side, and on the other side, no road protection at all. And this is one of the reasons why I love La Vuelta. Narrow roads, bumpy and rough tarmac, plenty of bends to hide will really tempt the riders to go on the attack. So whichever big gun roads first will happen here. As from now on, it will be 12 kilometers of rolling terrain, a dream for a solo ride and a nightmare for the chasers.
Tell you what, well, Antonio can't half play the guitar. That was great. So, solo, pushing on. Somebody sprightly that will have a good old dig. Hey, why not? Let's see, though. I think there's too much at stake still. The general classification is far from settled. And indeed, those that have tumbled down the order want to make amends. Those that have gone very far down want to show what they've got. And those that are close at hand really want to impose themselves on their rivals. It could get very sketchy. Let's wait and see. We're going to be in that descending section that I was telling you about in about 4 kilometers time. Minute 17 is the gap back to the pack, and the pack's been busy. They've fought to get even onto this road. But guess what? Peter Sagan is up towards the pointy end. Trentin also just rocking and rolling in, the European champion. You can see his white with gold stars there, number 77, just showing his class out front. Also the green jersey on the back of Kwiatkowski, and he's alongside the Rainbow Hoops of the World champion. You look back here, there's a sense of urgency about absolutely everyone, Sean. Nobody's taking it easy because this is going to be dramatic.
Nobody is taking it easy, and nobody's given much space here, and you can see up front, you know, a lot of the men, general classification men, but also the guys are thinking of the stage victory. We can see Viviani, he's pretty much up there in the front of affairs at the moment, and of course the riders who can ride the finals, the sprinters meaning they're good classic riders, they can position themselves very well here in this sort of terrain. And we have seen that building up for quite a number of kilometres, where the peloton was starting to push on and going faster and faster, and we know why. You know, we're getting onto the narrow section. We did see with Antonio there, you know, that final climb, narrow roads, you know, dangerous corners. So you have to be more so than other days, very much in the front of affairs. And the peloton is starting to push on. Everybody wants to keep to the front, and that means the pace is just going up, and the peloton, we can see, is stretching out a lot, and it will stretch out a lot more before we get to the finish here this evening.
So just before we go over the lip, we'll take ourselves our final commercial break, by the way. So it'll be a clean run in for you all. Those of you lucky enough to have the Eurosport Player will of course have uninterrupted coverage. The Eurosport Player, and indeed those of you watching down under, whether you've set your alarms very early or very late. Gosh, today is going to be a brutal approach. It could be one of the most exciting. I kind of feel it as we head to Pozo, Alcón, and indeed the finishing ramp. But it's that climb that Juan Antonio has just been over that could well be a launch pad for greatness. So we'll take this break, get it out of the way with. We'll probably return on the descent, and then that kicker. What will the gap be by the time we get to the top? Welcome back. Glorious terrain that we're dealing with here. Spectacular road as well. This is the descent that we've been talking about, indeed warning you about. And Alexis Gougiard has decided to go goofy, as it were. He's pedalling on while in that position. You don't get the same drive, by the way. You get a bit of aero, but it doesn't really help when you're pedaling while sitting on the top tube. So it's been proven, but nonetheless he's not listening. He's just going to do it himself. He'll probably be singing alto tonight, quite frankly. But he will get to the bottom of this descent, high-speed one, in about just under 3 kilometres time, and then it will be the tidy zone where all rubbish is handed out, and indeed then we take on the climb. Now, everybody has taken their last bottles here because there's going to be no chance to take anything a little bit later on. Those who've missed out on that may well suffer a little bit later. But just look how spectacular this is. No part of this land, it seems, is untouched by human hand. It's absolutely remarkable. The terracing goes up to the sky. And it's clearly moneyed, I imagine, because of the what they've produced here over the centuries, because the roads are good. At the moment, it's a wide open one that everyone can play with. And the pace at 77 kilometres an hour, it looks like they're standing still, Sean, but boy, oh boy, are they charging into this descent.
Yes, they are charging in, and you can see they touched 80 kilometres per hour just a moment ago there. And yeah, a big mix of different teams on the front here, and they're all trying to get onto this climb in the position that they need to be, and that is the very front of the peloton. And you know, we know the reason that they are being informed by the director sportif. You know, there's narrow roads here. It's maybe not the difficulty of the climb itself, but it's the road. It's a danger one, narrow roads, and that's where you have to really be careful. And yeah, this peloton is really going along at a fast pace, and the breakaway are just, you know, working quite well together. We could see Alexis Gougiard there pushing on and getting down in that aerodynamic position. They're holding on to the advantage, but still it's not enough to have any chance of going all the way to the finish. And it's under the minute now, and when they got onto the climb, I think, you know, the peloton will really start to speed up, and that's where they'll be swallowed up on this final climb of the day, which is the third category, the Alto de Cial.
It's scary Mary, quite frankly. They come off this. In fact, our break are just about on the flatter section right now. They've gone into the Revalement, where they collect all of the rubbish. If they can take their hands off the bars at this sort of pace to actually drop the wrappers that they're carrying, they'll then have a short transition of about 3 k's before we get to the bottom of the climb. The climb itself, don't worry too much about the incline. It is around 6.5–7% on occasion within the 4 kilometres of its length. However, it's more than that. It's the fact that the road is so narrow. You've seen Juan Antonio's recon of it. and there's just not enough space for everybody. And this is the problem. All director sportives have said, get up there, make sure you're at the front. Not everyone can be at the front. That's the problem. And this highway is going to get compressed in just a very, very short space of time. It's nice and wide, lots of ground for them to play with, Sean. That's not going to be the case when we make the turn, and that turn will come at 17.2 Ks. These guys have got 3K before they get to the action zone. They'll be fine. They can go up in a sinuous line. Whether they'll be caught before then, they've only got 31 seconds, is anybody's guess. This is going to be one heck of a dramatic moment before we even get to the line.
Yes, well, it's coming down rapidly, and you know they have a 2-3 kilometers to get onto the climb. We can see the way the peloton is going along, but they are also pushing on here. They're not throwing in the towel at all, the 7 leaders. You know, they're really giving their everything here, and I think, yes, they're hoping that they get onto the climb and get settled into it before they're swallowed up by the peloton. But we can see the rate the peloton is coming. It's just unbelievable the pace they're doing. We did see a moment ago 80 kilometers per hour. They're still going at close to that.
Just looking at them swarm, Sean, it looks like somebody's kicked over a hornet's nest, and somebody's going to get stung if they're not careful. They've been milling around everywhere. The amount of movement there was within the pack is almost as scary as the speed that they're maintaining. And right now Lotto Jumbo are doing a fantastic job in the yellow and black. Floris de Teer's in the break, but they're not thinking about him. Kruiswijk, George Bennett, they've got Tom Leeser and Danny Van Poppel if they can possibly get anywhere close to a sniff at the end. But frankly, there's going to be a lot of snouts in the trough later on, Sean, and somebody's going to get their fill, but most are going to be left hungry, I think.
Well, yes, this is the point now where we talked about earlier on. The sprint to get onto the climb here, that is the first big move here, and then when you get into that, the climb itself, you just try and get over it, and of course the run into the finish then, which is a bit later, further down the road. But we are seeing this is proven to be a very important part of the race here to get onto this third category climb.
Vamos says the sign. I don't think anyone needs to put that call out. I'm sure it's being issued by some of the director sportifs, and there is by way of guiding them, that spectacular sponsored bridge is only so wide, and frankly it almost didn't accommodate everybody. But what it's actually done is previewed the pinch, and here we go, 17.6 kilometers, and just look at those who are backing out of it. This is how narrow it can get. We've got some hoardings here as well, which are making it even more narrow, and then it gets a bit gnarly the higher up we go. Investing in this test, still the breakaway out front, and it's Oscaris Rodriguez that hits it first. Rolling through is Floris de Teer in the yellow and black, and taking it up big time here is Edward Ravazzi. Is he going to be a foil? A man out there for Dan Martin if he kicks on. Anybody's guess. Conky wants a piece of this as well, but everyone else, it looks like they've settled themselves into the test. The pace has been knocked back. There's whatever position you've got now, Sean, you're going to have to more or less hold on to.
Yes, well, you try and hold on. If you're in the good position up in the front of the peloton, well, then you hold on to it.
And then that's what happens. And you get a compression, and here we go, all over the road. One bike wheel touch. They couldn't all fit, and that's precisely what's happened. We knew this would be an issue, and so it has proven to be. And there's a lot of talent back here, I'm afraid. A lot has been caught out. Who's got through? That's the big question. And can they possibly regather themselves? Going down and staying down is not a nice thing to see. Whenever that happens to a rider, we start to worry. We were worried in advance of this, Sean, and we were duty-bound to express our concern, and it's been reflected as true. Look at this. What a mess.
Yes, well, we did see that it slowed down a little bit, but there's always riders trying to just move up who haven't been in a good position. Yes, Benoot, it looks like there.
Pitelli as well, but Chase Benoot here would have been one of those in with a shout. More than that today, he'll be absolutely heartbroken by that. At least he looks in decent shape. He's getting back on the bike, but you can never tell. Adrenaline kicks in, and sometimes it masks an injury. We said it was dangerous, Sean, and so it has proven to be. And still kicking on here, and Cairo Ral with Aran Burro. Now, he's a good sprinter. If he gets over this man can deliver. He's only 22 years of age, and he's on spectacular form at the moment. The GP of Tosha went his way. He's capable. So is Floris de Teer, who wants to show that he's got some classics credentials. He kicks on as well. And Michael Woods in the pink with the pink shoulders here, just embedding in and behind. Ravazzi is there. This is giving them a second chance, because there'll be teams that have to wait up behind them. Let's see if they do. Added impetus to the break, and it starts to break down, and the two principals that we thought would be the main feature from it, Floris de Tier, who was fifth on stage 5, you may remember, and Michael Woods, they're going off alone. And just look behind them, it looks like there may well be a regathering. This doesn't look like the most focused attack for the time being, and it looks like it may well be a punch-up late on. And Simon Yates is in a very good position. The green jersey of Kwiatkowski just sat in behind the black and lime of Simon Yates. He wears those rather incongruous yellow-framed spectacles. He's up towards the 4 at the moment. Meanwhile, looking back through as well, we're seeing that Kruijswijk and George Bennett are in a very good position in the more yellow, the banana yellow and black right there. Team Sky guiding themselves up here, and Nibali's in a good spot as well, mind you. Looking back through this group, there'll be some broken hearts today, I'm afraid, but this man has got an awful lot of it. Now, Michael Woods would have started the day as amongst the favourites, and the Canadian is kicking on right now, and he's got a very, very good chance. He needs company, though, I'm afraid, with 15.5 kilometres still remaining. He'll go over the top, I think, of this test in 3.1 kilometres climb time, but they may well be caught. Problem is, Sean, if you've got bike damage here, it's very difficult to get any kind of assist on this climb.
Well, if you have problems, a mechanical problem, it would be a real disaster here. We did see the crash there. It didn't look like there was any of the GC men held up or going down, but there is a slowdown back in the peloton, so they're just backing off for the moment. And I think that was the reason for the crash as well. We did see that big race to get onto the climb, then it slows down a bit, and some riders maybe trying to move up, and nobody giving an inch, and down they go, and a number of riders going down, and that does split the peloton. But for the moment, we can see most of the favourites are pretty much up here, controlling on the front, and 37 seconds in advantage. This is going to be the point where Michael Woods is going to be saying, well, if we had 4 or 5 minutes here, what a day it would be. But unfortunately, you know, the lead he has is a very slender one at the moment, and I think back in the peloton, the moment they start attacking and the big ones go for the stage victory, this gap will come down, and it will just be he will be swallowed up very quickly.
Let's talk about the approach, because it will be there in 5 kilometres time. Sorry, in 10 kilometres time, it gets a bit naughty. We have some the road really does sway around like a rattlesnake's tail to about the 5 kilometre mark. Then it gets sensible, and we have what looks like a benign approach, but it's anything but 3, 4, 5 roundabouts to be taken before we actually get to the finish. We'll be coming back to the finish in the reverse order than we actually saw it as a preview, because they went across the finish line backwards out onto this loop, and now they're coming back into town. Beautiful countryside, no part of it seems untouched by human hand. We've got terracing and all kinds of stuff. I'm charmed by it, I must say, but it also has a bleakness about it. The castle of Pena Negra, the black point, or the black quill. Well, what tales have been written here in the past? Looks like it's got a whiff of modernity about it, but quite often the weather here is so constant. Some of the ancient monuments actually they actually look in quite good nick, I must say, preserved. They've got to preserve themselves as well, Sean. Over the past few days, the temperatures have been punishing up there in the 30s. I'm hearing we nudged 34 today. They're out there on course. Not the 40s that we've had, but nonetheless, still something of an anvil for them to be battered upon.
Yes, well, it's still very warm conditions, and for bike racing, it's certainly times it can be uncomfortable. And where we are at the moment on the route today, that's where it can start to really kick in. The end of the day, when you start climbing, the body starts to heat up quickly, and some riders will, you know, have trouble here staying with the pace of the peloton, as we can see there. Florence de Tier being just swallowed up by the train being set by the Movistar team.
That was a lovely switchback, actually, that you saw. Michael Woods just looked like he was riding on the ceiling, away from his pursuers, who are only 27 seconds in arrears. He's carrying a bit of a rip here, Sean, which proves it's not been a smooth day for him either.
No, he had a crash very early in the day. When they got into the breakaway, he crashed not too far after getting out of the main peloton, but he got back into the group very quickly. I think they knocked off the effort and allowed him back in, but we can see there he has the scars of the fall from earlier on.
Gorka Izagirre is here. I'm wondering where Jon Izagirre is. Gorka would be the man for a punchy finish such as this. He's wearing the red with the gold helmet just going out of your screen now. There's the green jersey just about to disappear as well, it seems, with this camera framing. Quintana's in a reasonably happy place. And the Sagan fans are making their voices heard. The rainbow flag there, which presumably is in support of Peter Sagan. I'm sure it'll be well received by the great man himself. Seeing that Trentin is actually part of this group, as well as Michael Woods pushes on until he's got 1,500 metres to get to the top. He might just crest it alone, but I think that will be the end of our break today.
Yes, well, we can see there 18 seconds, 17 seconds, it is coming down. The pace being set by Movistar. We can see the road there, very broken, very patchy, and that would be a concern for the riders. As you mentioned, Carlton, if you have a mechanical problem, if you get a flat tyre here, no, it's not the place where you want to get it, because the cars now are going to be a long ways back. The peloton is stretching out. There's going to be gaps further down. So hopefully the general classification men, they really do not want any mechanical and flat tyre. Inside of the road there, just behind Simon Yates, you'll see a white jersey. That's the combined jersey, and there's the move with a little blue flash on it of Alejandro Valverde. I think he has to be as favourite for today. Peter Sagan very much still installed within this group, as you can see, and there's a bit of a recollecting here of certain teams that got bitten by that crash, including EF Education First, and Rigoberto Urán, I'm afraid, was possibly held up. If not, then certainly some of his teammates, I can tell you. Nonetheless, 14 seconds right now, and who's that at the back? Was that Nibali? Nibali starting to slip back there slowly. So, yeah, he's also, you know, the rider who we've seen every day when it's a bit difficult, and the NT seem to be suffering, and he still had the back problem where he gets you know, a lot of pain in his back, and I think that is something that he's probably thinking of or concerned about, because if you really push hard, well, then you can aggravate that, and that's what he doesn't want at this moment. That looks like Simon Clark in a good position again. Is that Urán just behind him and also getting up to show himself? Is Alessandro De Marchi yet again? It may well be that he kicks on over the ramp here. Movistar still controlling things. The blue of Movistar with the white M upon their breast. Quintana nicely placed. Don't look for the same livery for Alejandro Valverde, their teammate, but he is there. And indeed, you can almost play the Jaws music when Valverde's in a position like this. He's quick, he takes on these kind of inclines, and he can sprint a climb, and that's a perfect scenario for today. And I think Valverde is looking like a favourite, Sean. Well, I think they're, you know, playing safe from Movistar. We did see there that Nelson Oliveira, the Portuguese rider, he was setting the pace. Now we have winner Ancona, who was on the front of the peloton. Quintana very much at the front of affairs. Valverde is also in there, and you know, they're doing two things, I suppose, at the one here. They're, you know, making sure the general classification men, the two men, are safe, but also the stage here, keeping a good pace and making sure that, you know, nobody attack, and Valverde will definitely try and have a go for the stage victory here. And of course, he's in his home ground here, Murcia. We've been you know, in that the past 2 days. Today is really the final day, so more so he'll want to get the stage victory. Big pickup going on right now, and this is Tom van Aersbroek, and he's there. They just tagged their teammate, and that is Rigoberto Urán, and he's tucked in here, and alongside him with the lime green of Mitchelton Scott, working extremely hard. Simon Yates is in a good position as well. Chapeau to Michael Woods. He's going to get the combativity award today, especially riding on with an injury, as he picked up earlier on today. Still did well there, just sailing by him, the main contenders of the day, including Peter Sagan, who's got to fancy his chances. That's Franco Pellizotti hanging in, the Italian, in the red and gold of Bahrain Merida. 12.6 kilometres to go, and it's, I'm afraid, a day that's going to have a big price to be paid by some, and especially those that put in a lot of effort early on, sometimes for other people. Antoine Dechaine, the Canadian champion, did so much work for Groupama Francis de Jeux, and I hope he gets an extra bun at the dinner table. 12.4 kilometres
of the day remaining, and it's starting to get a bit cagey. Kwiatkowski's in here with the green jersey. Team Sky will be working, of course, for their principal. I think it is Gorka. I can't tell whether it's Gorka or Jon because I can't see the beard, which maybe has been shaved off. Rigoberto Uran's looking threatening as well, Sean. Likewise, Simon Yates, who's up here at the pointy end.
Yes, well, I think there's a lot of teams thinking of having a go for the stage here, notably Rigoberto Uran, but we can also see Michelin Scott there, Jack Haig on the front, and he's controlling, and of course Simon Yates is in there. He's another one who we talked about on this stage. He could have a go for the stage in, but we can see there, at the moment they're setting a strong pace, but nobody prepared to attack at just under 12 kilometers to go. They're all thinking of the final run to the line, and they know that this is a more difficult stage than maybe it looks on the route manual or route book, and they're all just, I think, holding back and keeping their powder dry to the final 2.5 kilometers to the finish.
Almost getting seasick there. Tell the cameraman to switch on Steadicam. Steady as you go for Vincenzo Nibali at the back, I'm afraid, rising a pedal through on each of the inside curves, just making sure he stays safe. In pain, Vincenzo, I'm afraid, after picking up a broken vertebrae earlier this season, and still not fully recovered. If he's trying to ride himself into the Worlds, I think you can almost strike him out at the moment. I hope he recovers soon. That said, Rigoberto Uran also back from... Oh, no. Well, if you drift towards the edge, and it's easy done here, Sean, you find the gravel, and that can bite you.
Yes, well, if you go towards the edge here, you go off very quickly, and we can see, and we heard Antonio talking about that. It is a dangerous ascent, but we can see back in the peloton, they have been taking it easy, and now we can see an attack there from the team from Cajarual.
Yeah, I think it's yet another kick. They've got some options. Nelson Soto, if he ever gets himself close to the line, he's going to go well. I think this is Lastra. We had Aramburu up the road. That's my guess anyway. We will we'll get hopefully confirmation on that in a few moments' time. Gnarly heavy road this, Sean. It's one of the cheaper surfaces that you get here, and it's Louis Mas is being declared. Well, we'll go with it. Get confirmation right now as we hove in, and it is indeed Louis Mas. Apologies, who's pushing on. Cairo Rao, moment like this, they must know the road, Sean, and they know the attack points, and this is a spirited one with 10.3 to go. It could be that the GC men look at each other.
Yes, it is an opportunity, and of course, if you're a rider who know that you have no chance in the final against the bigger riders here, the more punchier riders, well, then have a go. And there is the opportunity here because it is slow down a bit. We can see the teams are controlling on the front, so have a go and see what happens. Can you get enough of an advantage? But you need to really have that 30-40 seconds getting on to the final 2.5 kilometers before the finish to hold on up this ramp to the line.
Tenuous at the moment, but as the ramp starts to approach, the pace is going to pick up. Now this is in about 4 kilometers time, the road gets a bit technical, even more so than it is at the moment. So and they'll be there before you know it, because we've got these downhill runs to it. It does as well when we're finally... Well, here is that nasty little loop that I was telling you about. To be honest, I thought we were going to take a hairpin there. That comes a little bit later. I'm getting concerned on behalf of the riders, but then again, our concern has been justified. Oh, dear, 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 dear. What have we got? Mechanical. It's not Dan Martin, is it? Camera, please. Didn't see it, but you'd assume, Sean, if they're stopping like that, it's either Aru or Martin. Dan Martin, indeed, here it was listed as. So there you are. Only got a flash of it, but yeah, Dan, I'm afraid, with a puncture. One of his teammates having to corrupt their bike to help him out. It's been done before, but it often takes a long time because riders' fingers, especially tired fingers, not as fast as engineers' fingers, Sean.
No, and it is going to be very difficult to see Dan Martin getting back in here, because now we're starting, the descent, and we can see the way the peloton is lined out. So again, you get the wheel from your teammate, get it out of the teammate's bike, get it into your own bike and get moving. You're going to be a long ways off, and we can see here this descent is a danger one, but on the front It's Sky who are leading down. It looks like Geoghegan Hart is on the front.
More trouble, I'm afraid. And it's Damien Howson who was busy guiding Simon Yates. There he is, and he's taken a proper tumble. He's having to bang the old bars here, get his brakes back into where they need to be. The Stallions here looking on as these boys start to perform. Oh, somebody's gone wide, and 2 or 3 riders are actually being collected on the far side there. Stopped to the side of the road. I don't think it's fans. We'll see in a moment when the bike at the back of this group comes through. 8.5 kilometres from home. We said it was going to get a little bit sketchy, Sean, and so it's proving. I wonder if the breeze that's been blown up here has just added a little layer of dust to the surface that's bitten a few.
Yes, I think the road is dusty, and you can see there, you know, it's very smooth on that descent, and yeah, riders sliding out there, and yeah, it is a one. They were taking it pretty easy. They certainly wasn't going full on, and if they were going to go full on, Kwiatkowski, we're hearing, is down.
Yes, we're hearing that Kwiatkowski is one of those that's taken a tumble. The man in the green jersey, couldn't see who it was from the sort of long distance that we've had, but he's got teammates around him. So that collection, I believe, is to try and reassemble his challenge. This race can bite you at any time. They may not have the longest stages in terms of distance, but they can be very long days in the saddle in this sort of heat. And when the road twists as it has done, as we've mentioned, like a snake, then it can be an absolute nightmare. You can get bitten. This man's taking a big bite. Let's see what his gap is. I'll see if I've got a transponder for you. 14 seconds we're hearing. And here, secondary bike changes going on. This is Valerio Conti, who finds, I think he was the man that corrupted his bike for Dan Martin, and finally gets some assistance of his own. No weight up back there. And in fact, it's Aston Martin and Movistar that are pushing on. And this is going to be an effort. If Omar Freire is here, he can dig deep. And likewise, Bilbao, formerly of Caja Rural, he'll fancy this terrain, and I think it may well be him. Time then to invest, Sean. 7.9 kilometres to go. Nobody said racing was easy, and this is anything but today. Simon Yates looks like he's in a handy position, just sharing a shoulder here with Valverde. He's not in that front group. He's just tucked in, as you can see, bottom of your screen for now. Valverde and Simon Yates, that would be a good one too. Will it happen? They've got to catch this guy first. They're just about to do so with 7.8 to go.
Yes, and we can see there it would look like the attack from the Lotto and El Jumbo rider George Bennett, the New Zealand rider, and immediately, you know, he was marked out by some other riders, and it looked like that it was the Michelin Scott rider Jack Haig seemed to be just in front there with what, 3 or 4 riders.
Let's have a look now. This apparently is Kwiatkowski's incident. 1, 2, 3 as they dab the brakes. Must have been dust collecting one more who had to skittle through. 3 riders down, Sean, and I think it was part of the Sky train who were out front.
Yes, well, we can see there, you know, some riders sliding out, and of course when a rider slides, you see him just going in front of you. You go on the brakes a little bit too heavy, and then you just you take the bike from under yourself and you slide out as well. And we could see there was a number of riders just, you know, slided off or went off the side of the road, and we can see at the moment just starting to mark each other, so that will be opportunity for Kwiatkowski maybe to get back in here.
Let's wait and see. Certainly won't be welcome to some of the guys who are up the road, but what condition is he in? Can't see the green jersey down here. I can see a green jersey, but that, I believe, is trade team Caja Rural. Bora waiting up here as well. Suggests that some others have had an issue. Haven't seen Sagan for a while. Don't read too much into that. I'm sure you've probably spotted him at home, but hoping so anyway.
Brambilla here in the attack from Trek Segafredo with George Bennett once again.
You know, George Bennett is he's one of these guys who can dig extraordinarily deep at a moment like this. Staying safe is Quintana. He'll be adding an awful lot of impetus to his challenge. I think it's Jon Izagirre who's tucked in behind Quintana. We can also see that Quintana is behind a white livery jersey. That's Valverde, and he's got to be favourite for today. There he is. Gorka Izagirre is there, the Spanish champion, finally. But I still want to know who the other Bahrain rider is. I'm hoping it's Jon, in which case he'll be in for a good finish, something that is not at the behest, I'm afraid, of Kwiatkowski. 7 kilometres from home. Here he is, Kwiatkowski, right now in the pack, and sitting on him like an anchor is winner Alcón. How many more have been down, and where are the teammates from Sky to help this man in the green jersey get back in, Sean?
Yes, well, we can see he has the Colombian champion there with him at the moment, and he's going to, you know, just give it everything to try and bridge that gap across to the riders out in front. So we can see Kwiatkowski here. There's a lot of groups out in front, and yeah, that is the problem. You have to get to one group, then there's a gap of another 10 seconds to get to the next group, and yeah, there's a number of groups that he has to leapfrog to get back into the front of affairs.
Yeah, I think he's left two teammates behind him. Probably had to corrupt their bikes for him. I'm just guessing, but let's wait and see. Nonetheless, he has, of course, got a great ally with him in the young Colombian, but Sergio Luis now is going to have to work like no other time if he's going to limit the damage. 34 seconds. I think he could take that as possibly a deficit by the end. It does trim down to 32, and the rest. He may be able to salvage this, Sean. You're always going to have some bad luck. It's how you ride it and what support you're going to be able to be offered.
Yes, well, you know, you're not going to get a lot of support, because when you're a general classification man, unless you find yourself with some other guys from the general classification, have teammates about who want to, you know, push on and get back into the front of affairs, you're not going to get a lot of help from the riders who have been distant. And we can see this terrain as well. You know, it's just turning all the time. Kwiatkowski, when you slide out like that, you're always a little bit nervous. You don't want to take, you know, too much risk and go down again, slide out again. So it's always a problem here. But yeah, on the front we can see that group is still pushing on quite a strong pace. It's going to be a big ask for Kwiatkowski to make it back into the front group of the favourites.
Sven Bistrom is here for UAE Emirates, and likewise Jordi Simon. I think this is why we're dwelling on him at the back. And we said it was likely to elicit a response, and that's precisely what you're seeing. Harada just decides to invest in this last push in. Jesus, indeed, with 5.2 kilometres to go. No response just for the time being. That's a long way out, but he knows the roads. Now, he's just been over this levee on the bridge. He's taken a right-hander. He now takes this left, and this is where the road effectively straightens out all the way to the 1 kilometre from home marker. A lot of commercial fruit growing in this part of the world, and the money gives us a good road. It does, however, have a couple of roundabouts within it until we get to that point, and it's who's got the legs left. And you see George Bennett come out of the saddle and then plonk straight back down. His mind says go, and his legs say no, and there's going to be a lot of that today. Green jersey on the back of Kwiatkowski, 38 seconds, Sean. He might be taking a packet today. Not good.
No, it's not good, because the race is, you know, still going on out front, and we can see the riders attacking. And when you see the likes of George Bennett, you know, he's not going to be allowed to ride away from that front group, and there's always going to be some of the other the general classification men will just chase him down. So for Kwiatkowski, it's a killer of a terrain as well. We've seen over the past number of kilometres, it's just up and down. You know, it's a real energy sapping terrain, and we can see here Kwiatkowski on the front now trying to bridge the gap across. He can see out front there is a group, but it's that's still 35 seconds to go.
Yeah, he's fighting. He's found a couple of seconds, but he's at what cost today? As you saw, he had Sergio Luis now with him, who's finished his workload. Everyone else sitting on the back wheel of Kwiatkowski, knowing that he is going to pace them here. And it's starting to break down. They're reaching out for glory. And who is going to be the winner today? Amazing to see that Quintana is happy to take on the task here. Jonas Aguirre is in here as well, just tucked in behind his behind the Sky Rider. Is that Theo Gegenhardt? Can't quite see for Team Sky, Sean, up in that group. Looking a little bit further back, Valverde hasn't invested just yet, still waiting. He's got a foil up the road. Let's see how this one pans out. Great approach, Sean. This is going to be dramatic.
Yes, we can see here that you know, a number of riders, notably Quintana, Bennett here. We can see John Izagiri there just slipping off the front here, and you know, all action behind. We can see it's Micah there from Bora Hansgrohe puts in an effort here, and they're all just looking at each other. They're not allowing this one to get away, and you can see also the Astana rider there. He's also there, Lopez, in this group. So this is a danger one, and there will be a reaction from the riders who are just a little bit off the rear of this 5 or 6 man group going out front.
No disrespect, but there's the red jersey of Rudy Mollard in elevated company here. 5 seconds, modest margin, 3.4 kilometres to go. They've got to make sure some of these guys that don't throw it away. 35 seconds is the gap, and others have got some work to do here. And Bauke Mollema has also been caught out. He's within this group of the green jersey of Kwiatkowski and Team Sky working hard.
And there's Zakarin there just on the front, so they're also want to push on here, and that is going to help Kwiatkowski. And we can see that he can see them just out there in front. So I think the gap is coming down. 33 seconds. It could be a little bit less than that, but time is running out. 3 kilometres to the finish.
It is indeed. And this train of talent we've got, including the red jersey on the back of Rudy Mollard from Groupama. Francis Jurt is there, and it looks like there may well be a damage limitation exercise going on right now with the firepower of Bauke Mollema and Zakarin. It's helping Kwiatkowski, and the gap's starting to close. It says 28 seconds. I'm hearing it's a little bit narrower than that, but nonetheless, this man is giving it his all. Jesus Herrada. Jose is also part of the team, but Jesus making a good fist of it, and everyone else is just starting to weave a little bit. It's a tenuous gap, and this is allowing back in Kwiatkowski in the green jersey. They're handing Sky a glorious card at the moment, and good for them that they've actually. I think it's Theo Geoghegan-Hart up front, not quite sure, but at least they didn't panic after the crash and asked for all hands to the pump. No sign of Peter Sagan, I note, Sean, for the time being. It looks like he's not going to be in it. And time then to go long. Who's this going to be? Genius, is he having a dig? Let's see from AG Tour Le Mondial with the brown shoulders. Surely got to tempt somebody else out here to have a go. It is Galopin that's eating into the gap right now, and he could sail straight by. Well, he's good at this sort of approach. 2 kilometres to go. Now, we have a turn at the Flamme Rouge, and whether he'll be on one is anybody's guess. Look at the way they're snaking all over the road. They can't decide who's going to take up the cudgel, Sean, and beat everyone else with it. Valverde's not panicking for the moment. He wants to keep something back for the sprint, which I'm sure he's going to impose on the ramp when we get there. And it is a winding climb up to the finish. Once we've dealt with the Flamme Rouge, there is a few lefts and rights. We'll talk you through it as we approach the line, Sean.
Yes, and this is a real difficult running, as we can see Tony Galopin here just a couple of meters off the front of the big group of favourites, and we can see Kwiatkowski's group still a bit further back there. They looked like they were just about to make it, but still it's just uphill slowly, and everybody is just on the limit here, and it's attacking all the time out front, and that's not giving Kwiatkowski the chance to get across with the other riders who are prepared to chase, notably Zakarin.
Let's see. 1400 metres, you've got to be careful when Galopin's in this sort of mood, and he is mooded to have a go. This is this Maika, yes, who's up front. Mashka or Maika, take your pick, is going to have a dig right now with 30 seconds. It's extending, but it's to this man, don't forget. So the two groups may be a little bit closer at hand, and I think he may well just make this happen. Oh, Tony Galopin, he's a decent time trialist in a situation like this, Sean, and he's got to trial it all the way home on this uphill ramp. He could get there. It's looking he will.
Yes, he is looking good, and he's been looking good right through this Vuelta from the beginning. He's up there, and he's a rider that can, when he gets a gap of 5 or 10 seconds, he can hold on, and it's looking good for him.
Looking very good indeed. It's David de la Cruz for Team Sky, by the way, that is part of this group. Valverde is also in here. They take this turn. Now then, we have a roundabout to deal with as well. It's not a nice one. You'll see it in a few moments' time, but this man, I think, has already dealt with it. The final turn for him will be a left turn, and I think he's got the jump on everybody, and he realises it. Mouth agape here. It's a rack full of excitement, and they haven't really started the sprint behind him. I think he's going to get there. Tony Galopin's going to take this final turn, and what a turn it has been for him. The GC men thinking about gaps and space between themselves. It'll be about bonus seconds for them, but Tony Galopin is going to come home here. He's even got time to think about how to celebrate, I believe. And look at this, Cairo Rao are involved within this push right now, but everyone else, and it looks like Valverde is going to pick it up, but he's not going to take the win. Oh, there we are. Tony Galopin gets it. The white jersey on shoulders of Valverde, I believe, crosses the line right now. Also up there. Oh, well, out of the box came a Sagan at the back of that group. He must have been. What about that? Breathless stuff. Now then, we wait as the clock starts to tick back, and we look for the green jersey. It's part of that group, not the Kai Rural jersey that's about to cross the line in a few moments' time, but that of Kwiatkowski, and here he comes right now. Good work, but 30 seconds to Galopan. I think he probably shipped about 20 to some pretty big names, like Valverde, like Inchausti. Goodness me, Sean, if they say if it ain't rubbing, it ain't racing. Well, he rubbed along the ground and then had to race his way back in, but all credit to Galopan, who kept his head there, took his chance brilliantly.
Yes, well, he just held off and just waited for the good moment, and when he went, he was powerful, and we could see there the way he just time trialed away, and a little bit of a hesitation when he attacks, and we could see there Valverde starting the sprint from a bit too far out, or a long ways out, and Peter Sagan just coming over him in the end. But what a difficult final there. It was just a drag race in the final number of kilometres to get to that finish today.
The French are having a fun time in Spain. They're sending raiding parties, Sean, and they're doing a great job of taking stages, leaders' jerseys, you name it. They're having fun. Yes, well, what a race is for them, and you know, it goes on. The French teams, of course, Groupama, FDJ, Cofidis yesterday, with Biohani, now with Tony Galopan here today with the other French teams. So it just goes on for them, and yeah, they cannot stop winning. Sagan just pipped Alejandro Valverde at the line here. There he is with Prades, it was, crossing the line for Euskadi, and Omar Freire. That is your top five. Rigoberto Urán close at hand in 6th place. Jon Izagirre in 7th place, all with the same finishing time, but Peter Sagan, his margin to Galopan, or Galopan's margin over the chasers here, was 5 seconds. The next gap came just after Enric Mas, and it was Wilco Kelderman who came home in 9th place. Little gap seen by the timekeepers here. Wow. A real sorting out, Sean. Yet again, the field is thinned down as we draw to the end of the first week of racing. Still, of course, 2 days before we get to the rest day. No rest for the wicked. They must have been bad in a previous life, because this has been a brutal opening week. Yes, and today a typical final for a stage in Vuelta. We did look at it, you know, when you look at that final number of kilometres, 20 kilometres, it was always going to be a difficult one, and a lot of riders suffering, and if you have a mechanical problem, well, then it really puts things into danger. And we did see Kwiatkowski. He was, you know, 35 seconds down at one time. He rectified it quite well, because he got back very close, but still losing, you know, that around that 20 seconds to the other general classification men. Yes, indeed, 30 seconds from the finisher today, but as you say, ameliorated by that 5 seconds gap between Galopan and Sagan and the rest. Well, hope you enjoyed today, and if you did, then you're going to love tomorrow as well. We've got a ramp finish before we get to the first special climb of this year's race on Sunday.